Welcome to this explainer video on how to use data about inbound phone calls and emails for monitoring and evaluation of the Find Out If You Need Planning Permission service. A quick note, we cover in this video the same data source guidance as we do in the Report a Breach phone calls and emails video, just relating to the Find Out If service. So if it's answers to more detailed questions you're looking for, then reach out directly to me or anyone in the M&E working group. People often contact their local council by phone or email to explain their development plans and ask what they need to do, starting with, do I need planning permission? And sometimes straying into what is effectively pre-application advice. A key benefit of the Plan X service for councils is a reduction in the volume of these inbound calls and emails, and so in the resource needed to respond to them. Already seen by a number of councils who've launched so far. Identifying and counting inbound calls and emails related specifically to do I need planning permission queries can be difficult. So if you're part of the ODP project for your local planning authority and you need to understand how to measure the impact of the Find Out If service, then this guide is for you. Let's start with the big picture. To assess how well the Find Out If You Need Planning Permission service is working, what outcomes it delivers, and where improvements can be made, we use a monitoring and evaluation framework. If you're not familiar with this diagram, then take a look at an earlier video in this series, Introduction to Monitoring and Evaluation for Find Out If. One of the key benefits is fewer and shorter phone and email interactions. The measures we've identified are counts of the total number of relevant inbound phone calls and the total number of relevant inbound emails. Data sources then for phone calls are typically a CRM call handling system or perhaps manual recording, and for emails, the council email service. If we add these counts of emails and phone calls to the number of new service sessions we have, we can understand the total number of inquiries received and the percentage of those that use the new service. This information feeds into the M&E framework report that summarizes progress and outcomes over time. So, what will you need to do to get yourselves ready for data collection? Let's start with phone calls. The first thing you will need to do is identify who takes the calls from callers who want advice on whether they will need planning permission. In some councils, there is a central customer contact team with a first point of contact for all calls. Others may have a specific planning support or validation team as a first point of contact. And some councils go straight to a duty planning officer role to receive direct calls, or in some cases, those the contact team can't resolve. Often that's a rotating role amongst a group of planning officers. Next, consider what system and process is being used to log data about calls. Some councils use an integrated phone and CRM system managed by a separate contact team who record some basic information about each call. Others may simply pass calls directly to the planning team, and it's those officers, for example, the duty officer, who record information on their back office system. Let's take a look at a couple of typical problems that councils new to ODP have come across so far. The first is making sure that data about all calls is collected. Some teams, for example, only note calls that need more than a very quick response. So it's vital in that situation to get agreement for a change in approach and to make sure all calls are recorded. The second and most common challenge is the level of detail recorded about the subject of each call. A lot of councils record planning-related calls, but they have no more detail than that. Options include the permanent addition of a second layer of reasons, or adding a specific one to the list for do I need planning permission, or perhaps getting agreement for data to be manually recorded for agreed periods of time. So, how to get these changes made? Some have to follow a strict and slow process, putting in official requests, which can take time, and some indeed have to wait until the annual review of a contract, for example, to get those changes in place. Making those updates to the data that's recorded can be laborious, but they are well worth it in the long run. A number of councils included an update to the level of detail recorded to their annual review, and now they are starting to reap the rewards of that. If you need to go through that detailed process, then while you're at it, it's worthwhile asking for an update that will help you track the impact of other services in the future. So asking for more than just one simple change. The working group can help you get an idea of the sort of additional data you might want to include in that request. Meanwhile, consider how you might use manual recording for this particular project to get things going, about which more in a minute. Other councils then have teams that can be more responsive if they're convinced of the benefits of making the change. If you can help the manager of the team who take these calls understand not only the potential of the Find Out If You Need Planning Permission service to reduce wasted effort in handling calls, but also the opportunity that the PlanX platform provides to develop other services that will reduce the number of calls across a wide range of reasons specific to your council. The Monitoring and Evaluation Working Group or the PlanX product team can tell you about the range of new services that are being developed and tested by LPAs across the community. If you can secure that relationship, then you may well have found a strong ally for your projects. Finally, some councils were able to ask people receiving calls to make a manual record on a spreadsheet for defined periods. Tewkesbury and Camden, for example, had agreement from duty officers to note all calls. They did find that after 3 months of this manual approach, the data quality starts to fall. So you may want to consider having a month of baseline data collection before launch, and then 2 post-launch periods where we ask for that data to be collected. As is so often the case, key to successfully getting the data you need is to start early, show the new service, explain the benefits already gained by other councils, and make sure to ask for help and advice if you hit a brick wall. Now let's talk about emails. Start again by identifying who manages the inbound emails about planning. Like phone calls, this could be a central customer contact team, a planning support or validation team, or a duty planning officer. As for the system used, most councils use Microsoft Outlook and Exchange with shared inboxes and central email addresses. And they may also sometimes use a CRM or a case management system to manage the responses to those emails. The key here, however, is how those emails are managed and moved around as they're dealt with. Some councils move received emails between folders and then archive them. In this case, you've got a ready store that you can interrogate to get your data. That's likely to be a manual process at first, and some councils are in that fortunate position. In other councils, emails are logged as a case and managed that way on a CRM or back office system, in which case your main concern will be whether all emails are recorded or whether only those that are deemed viable. If it's only the ones that are deemed viable, again, you will need to work to make sure all emails are recorded somewhere. At some councils, emails are just forwarded to the right person, dealt with, and deleted. And in that case, you'll need to make some basic system or process changes to start recording that information. So here are the main options that councils have used so far. The first option is that all inbound emails, specifically about do I need planning permission, are archived for a period of time for review. And they're reviewed either manually or using some form of text analysis. Secondly, if there's not one already in place, you can create a new shared mailbox for Find Out If I Need Planning Permission and ask for all relevant emails to be routed through that address. Once that's set up, you can set up an auto copy rule in Outlook that sends a copy of every received email from there to a separate archive. Make sure those are kept for an agreed amount of time, and then you can do your analysis on that data set. If you want to go one step further, you can use something like Power Automate to automatically gather metadata from all those emails into a CSV file. To do any of these, you may well need help from your Outlook admin or IT team to set this up, and possibly you may need to carry out a data protection impact assessment or DPIA. Just as it was for phone call data, some councils have had to follow a strict and slow process to secure the agreement and resource of the IT team to make the changes. And so meanwhile, they've agreed a manual archiving process with the people managing the emails. Others have found that their contact teams have more capability to make their own changes to how emails are stored and managed and moved between folders, and they can be more responsive, of course, if they are convinced of the benefits of making the change. A tip from other LPAs then: when you're discussing these data collection options, don't forget to explain the benefits. In particular, show what other councils have achieved and demonstrate how the new service works. Maybe set up a test account on PlanX to bring it to life. We found that when people understand the why, they're far more likely to help with the how. How much data do you need to collect and when? Well, we're doing a before and after measure, or a pre-post launch measure, if you like. So you'll want to collect a baseline of contact data before the launch, at least 1 month. More is better, but at least 1 month. And after launch, record data at 2 stages, again for a minimum of a month. Initially for the first month after going live, and then later on after any tweaks are made to the service or the service is more widely promoted. Now, of course, volumes vary across the year due to a lot of different reasons. So actually, the longer period of pre and post launch data you can collect, the better, and the more useful these measures are going to be. But the minimum we're setting ourselves is 1 month before and then 2 periods of 1 month after. Once you've collected your data, it's time to report it. You'll receive access to a shared spreadsheet managed by a member of the M&E working group. It's based on the M&E framework, and it consists of a simple table where you'll input the baseline data and the follow-up data. Make sure you submit your baseline data before your Find Out If You Need Planning Permission launch date. That will give us a solid foundation for comparison, and make sure that you have everything in place to collect all the data that you need to. Hopefully this video has given you all the information you need to start preparing your phone call and email data for the Find Out If You Need Planning Permission monitoring and evaluation process. Let's recap a few pointers. First, review your current phone call and email handling processes and engage with your contact and planning teams. Decide if you're going to need IT or data analyst support and where it will come from, and clarify what updates and changes you will need for your data recording. Start the request and approval process as early as you can, because these things do take time. Of course, if you've got any questions or need help at any stage, reach out to me or any member of the M&E working group. We're all here to help you. Thanks for watching.